It's 12 years since I first posted my introduction to Kanjira video here on YouTube, and it's had more than 250,000 views. I'm very pleased with that, and now is the time to add some new videos on the Kanjira. I think I need to go a lot deeper into the instrument and also follow up some of the stuff that's on my Kanjira book on Hudson Music. Now, the emphasis of the Kanjira book was really taking the Kanjira out of the traditional idiom of South Indian music and looking at it as more of a groove-based instrument for people who wanted to play it in, Western music or jazz or whatever contemporary music outside of the Indian idiom. Now, it's an absolutely amazing drum. There's a fairly detailed introduction in the video that I mentioned, and I'll link that below. But I'm going to recap here, and I'm going to look at in a little bit more detail at the drums, tuning, what sort of drums you can buy, what's available, all of the things that you kind of need to get started on the Kanjira and get some basic grooves and things happening on the instrument. And I'm also, as time goes on, going to look at some more traditional applications and some of the different compositions. It's a very involved system. And what's interesting about Kanjira is, it's a very involved system, but the Kanjira is a very, very simple drum. It's a simple single-skinned instrument, with a single jingle. It's a pretty cool and straightforward drum, and yet incredible virtuosity and complexities are played on this instrument. Besides some great groove stuff and it's got an amazing low tone. It's a very, very cool drum. Now, there are a lot of options available nowadays to get a Kanjira. Now, traditionally, this is an actual traditional South Indian Kanjira. It's got monitor lizard skin. It's very thin. It's got a single jingle here, and very simple one piece of wood shell. So traditionally, as I said, this is monitor lizard, but now in India the use of monitor lizards on drums is forbidden because it's an endangered species. So it's very, very hard now to get a traditional instrument, and it's illegal to take, I think it's illegal to make them actually, but it's definitely illegal to take a Kanjira out of the country if it's got monitor lizard skin on. So they use different skins sometimes now. They're nowhere near as good as the monitor lizard skin. The monitor lizard skin really is the one. Now, what's confusing for a lot of people is that, when you hear the Kanjira played, there's a lot of bass end on it. And yet, when you get the traditional one in your hand, kind of sounds more like that. So there's the first problem. So tuning, if you do have a traditional drum, whether it's monitor lizard skin or whether it's goat skin or whatever sort of animal has been chosen for the application onto the drum, one of the important things about Kanjira is the tuning, and tuning it on stage is a little bit problematic because you need to apply water to the drum to make the pitch go down. So what you need is you just need a little tub of water like this. There's not much water in there, and what you do is you just stick your fingers in there and you flick it into the drum like that. So here we got the drum. Going to flick some water in onto the head. Not much, it's just a little bit on your fingertips, and then you rub it in. You rub it into the head, all around the head, and a little bit more. You don't need a lot. And then immediately you're going to hear the pitch going down. You hear that? It's slowly coming down. Now, this is not a brilliant drum actually. This has got I'll talk about the jingles in a while, but it's not got very good jingles. It's it's not a very good drum, but it would suffice to demonstrate the pitch going down. So you hear that already. Hear how much that's gone down. And you can gently squeeze it like that. Immediately. You can hear how rubbish the jingles are. Now what I'm going to do is demonstrate, because if you put too much water on, I'm just going to put loads of water on and you'll see what happens. It's just going to go low and low and low, and it will become completely unusable. Immediately unusable, actually. So that dries out pretty quickly, but obviously if you've only got one drum on stage, then that's a little bit awkward. So generally speaking, Kanjira players will have 2 or 3 instruments at different stages of moisture to you know, have one ready when they need. When one goes too low, if they've put too much water in, or you know there's too much humidity in the hall or whatever. You know, it's coming up a little bit already. So yeah, so that's that. Quite an impractical drum, and definitely if you are a you know, multi-percussionist and you just want to pick up a drum, then that is, you know, can be pretty awkward, frankly. So there's a lot of options now. There's a lot of choices available. For some years, Remo have had their amazing Kanjira, which you know, I've always loved, and it's not because I endorsed Remo for so many years. It is actually a brilliant drum. It's one of the best things they made. That and one of their Pandeiros, which was amazing. Now, what's interesting about this, and I'm going to show you 2 different Remo drums to see how the different tuning works. Now, this drum, and other companies make tunable Kanjiras. Cooperman, Majid Drums make one. There's a few different companies that make Kanjiras. So actually getting hold of a tunable Kanjira is with artificial skin is now an easy option, and they do sound really good. So it's definitely worth it. And certainly in terms of being practical on stage, you can immediately pick the drum up and play. And it's just really great. It's a really great drum. So obviously it's exactly the same as the traditional drum. Single skin, single shell. The difference is that you can see inside, you know, we have the small rim here that pushes out against the head. So you can tune it by using Allen key. You can see an Allen key slot there, so you put Allen keys into the shell like this, and tune it, and you can tune it up or down. Now, one of the things with Remo Kanjiras, and you've got to be ideally test it before you buy it. So if you buy it online, you know, generally speaking, you're going to be all right, but sometimes they don't go low enough. So that's something to be aware of. It's the way that so here you've got the rim at the top inside that pushes up through. So the Allen key goes through the shell and pushes that inner rim up against the thing. So when they put the heads on, that inner ring has to be slightly tensioned by the Allen keys. Otherwise, it's right the way down on the actual main shell. So that means if the head's tensioned in that position, it can't go any lower. And so ideally you get one that's been made where they haven't done that, where the inner rim has been pushed away, tuned by 2 or 3 turns on the Allen key, then the head's put on, and then there's scope to tune it down. So that's one of the manufacturing issues that did come up. I don't even know if they still make them, to be honest. I mean, I assume they do. No one else has come up with anything, you know, anything as good as this. It looks good, you know, it's just a brilliant drum. So Jingle is the next topic. So we can see here we have the Jingle. Now this Jingle, this is the better. Notice how, in comparison to the other drum, the Jingle's very tight. Now with this drum, and now you can hear, it's really gone low now. There you go. Look, get the sack on a gig for that. So you can't even hear the jingle on that because but you can hear it's just with just the close stroke how it's not really doing much that's worthwhile. So one of the important things about the jingle, and you can't really change it, but it's the depth of the depth of the hole is very important. So you can see that I've got extra jingles in there, and in fact then they're not actually jingles. What they are is small Japanese coins. So they make the best Kanjira jingles. Like the traditional players use them, pretty much everyone, because those Japanese coins have a hole in the middle, so you can just slot them in. And for me, with the Kanjira from Remo, 3 coins is the perfect amount, and then you get you get a really good. You can hear that, just a very tight jingle sound. Very cool. So that's one thing. Change the jingle. Sometimes, you have to get some pliers and kind of get the thing out. I mean, I always wanted it to be that you could screw it out, but I don't know. Maybe this one is. I don't know. No, it's not. Yeah. So that's the makeup of the drum. You'll tune it with the Allen keys. It's a single head. Pretty straightforward. Now, if you listen to this drum. Just listen to the open tone where it's can go a little bit lower with this drum, but it doesn't take it so well. But if we take this drum here, so this was my main performing drum. Now you see I've got the internal mic in there, so we'll just let that hang down for now. But you'll hear how this is really the sound. So with the mic in there, I have a mic inside the drum. You get a really fat sound. Now this is, you'll have to excuse the look of this drum because it's covered in tape, and it's very much a gigging drum. But I can show you the microphone. Yeah, so you can see it's held in. What I've used is they're those curtain hook sort of things that are like question mark shape, and you screw them into the shell, undo them a bit, and then put the mic in, and then bend them round, and it holds in place. You can kind of see it there. Now this is Audio Technica saxophone mic, I think, because saxophone has a lot of different, low end and high end, and it's got a big range, and so this mic does really well for the Kanjira because it gets the lows and the highs. Now you can see if you look here, this end, I've taken all of this is where all the clip was that you clip onto the saxophone. I've taken all of that off, so I've just got this thing. It looks, I mean, it's it looks pretty tatty, but it works brilliantly. And so that's a good way to mic the drum. And then you just, of course, you just have the have that in, you can travel easily with it. And one of the good things about that, if you've got like a multi setup, is that you've got an extra mic. If you put that on your percussion table, just up like that, so it's open. So you've got the mic then, an extra mic that you can go over with sound effects, and because it's the Kanjira and you've sound checked it pretty hot, it's going to be a really good additional mic for certain things that you might want to do. You could also turn it up the other way and balance it on something, and you can get some notes. You can play brushes on it. So it's a pretty cool thing. Now this is really tatty. This is like, I mean, this has been all over the world with me like 20 times at least, and Heath Robinson, but it's a brilliant thing. You can't really, I don't like the idea of having a Kanjira on stage and just putting it down when it's not protected. You might put it on some bits of percussion or something and the head might get damaged. So I tend to always have this little cover. It just goes on the drum, and you can see it just kind of velcros round and seals on. So then you've got like a cover that's attached to the drum. So that's a pretty cool thing. Now, traditionally, obviously this drum comes from South India. It's used in Carnatic classical music, but that's only a very recent thing. For many years, the Kanjira was and still is a folk instrument across the whole of India in very different guises, different designs, you know, but pretty much this idea of a single jingled, single shell drum played with one hand and the pitch is bent with the other is very common in folk music across the whole of India. Now, there was an amazing artist called Hari Shankar, Harishankar, who came onto the scene, you know, I think probably the 70s, I'm not sure exactly when, and he took the Kanjira to the classical state. He was that good. Kanjira was never a classical instrument in South India. It was Gatam, Tavil, Mridangam. You know, they were the Morsing, the jaw harp. They were the main, you know, components of what they call the Tani Albatrum, the percussion group. And then Hari Shankar came along, and literally, it's like making the didgeridoo an orchestral instrument for virtuoso soloists. That's how amazing it was, because before, you know, everything that happened on the Kanjira for folk thing was all sort of rhythms like this, really simple, you know, very effective and sounding great, but very simple sort of rhythms. And Hari Shankar came along and just completely reinvented the instrument. It's pretty incredible, actually. And since then, sadly, Hari Shankar is no longer with us. He died at a very young age. But a total genius. One of my, in fact, probably my favourite percussionist in my whole life, actually. He's completely, totally, literally unbelievable. It's like he's been beamed down from Mars as this superhuman percussionist, just completely different planet, literally. Yeah, so Hari Shankar, do look out for him. You know, his recordings and stuff. There's not that much online, but he's left a huge legacy, an amazing, you know, lots of amazing students that have come out of it that are kind of doing that style. So it's a pretty amazing thing to look out for. Yeah, so then that got, you know, transposed into the classical arena. A lot more technique. Compositions were, you know, compositions from Mridangam and Gatam and different instruments were then transposed onto Kanjira. So it became a virtuosic hand drum in the South Indian classical arena under its own steam. So it's pretty amazing. Now, it's also a very, very effective drum. It's the only hand drum, like small hand drum, that if I'm mic'd well, I'm happy to do a duo with a drum set player or even a really loud drum set player, because it can project and it can be so in your face. It can be so powerful. It's a great drum to have on board. And even learning just the basics of the instrument is very, very useful for, you know, even if you're a drum set player and you want to have some extra flavors in, you know, in the studio, for example. You know, this is the type of thing that will be so effective. And what I'm hoping to get across in these lessons I'm going to put up is a direct and simple way that you can get immediately into some action on the Kanjira. So we're going to start with some, obviously if you've seen the introduction from 12 years ago, then you'll know that I did some you know, some basic explanation of strokes and a couple of basic patterns. And, you know, I'd suggest that you go back and also check that video out, because it will also be useful hand in hand with this one. You know, when you're kind of improvising and talking about instruments like this, sometimes, you know, you can bypass things or forget things, or, you know, and so theoretically with both, there will be a lot will get covered. So just to recap, it's a very simple instrument. Really, there are two sounds on it, effectively. You've got the open tone and you've got the closed tone. And so really it's a matter of working out combinations of those two in ways that can work to create, you know, simple rhythms and you know, maybe embellishments and different rhythmic decorations. So before we get to a couple of simple little patterns, first of all, let's just recap on the strokes and the holding position. So there are a number of considerations here. Various angles of the drum. This is a recap, so this is all included in the other introduction video, but basically this is the first angle, this is the second angle, and this is the third angle. So all of these need to be considered. So firstly, the angle of the drum here is dictated by if you just like your arms falling naturally, the angle of the drum represents how the arm comes across naturally. So for example, if the drum is angled like this, then you're kind of reaching around the drum and you're bending your wrist in a strange way. If the drum is angled too much like this, then you've bent your wrist again in the opposite direction. And because of the motion of the hands, there's a lot of movement. If your wrist is bent, then you're going to get repetitive strain injury. So that's the first thing, the angle of the drum. The height of the drum, you know, not resting on your leg, not high up in the air, you know, either of those. You can see they're both going out of shot for that reason. You know, this is that just you don't want to be tense, your arm doesn't want to be tense, just holding the drum naturally like that. So that's the first angle. The second angle is you don't want it to be falling over, because again, that's not, I mean, sometimes for effect you can, and in fact some frame drums are played like that with it, by using the angle of the drum, especially when they've got jingles inside, you know, particularly the DAF, for example. So you don't want it to be falling down, you don't want it to be falling backwards, because although that would be okay for the right hand or the striking hand, for the holding hand, you're putting a lot of tension on your wrist. For either of these, your wrist, if I take the drum away, I'm going to bend like this and take the drum away, you can see the artificial position of the hand, or the strained position. If I do that, again, you've kind of got weird. And then the actual position, your hand looks natural to your arm. You know, and I think that's a consideration, you know, when you're thinking about how you hold drums, how you hold drumsticks, you know, think about the natural position of your limbs, of your hands, of your fingers, of everything. And then, I mean, that's it, you know, it's just a natural position of your hand. I'm not straining, I'm not doing anything, and just put the drum in it. And that's it. So that's so you've got this angle, you've got that angle, and then finally, and again this is a problem for the holding hand rather than the striking hand, you've got this angle of it falling away either side. So, you know, I say generally to students, you hold the drum at 6 o'clock. If you imagine this is a clock face and this is 6 o'clock, you're holding the drum kind of at 6 o'clock. I probably go round a little bit, probably 7:30 or 6:30 or 5:30, depending on how you look at the clock face. But you know, you can see that's kind of the playing position. So you've got space for your hands there. Inside, you're not touching the drum head at all. The thumb never touches the head, unlike the Pandeiro, for example, which bends the pitch when it holds the drum in that way, and the fingers bend the pitch. These fingers. So that's that never happens. You're kind of holding it in this. You know, you'll slowly get used to how to hold the drum, but it's kind of, if we go back to this position here, and you know, you just slot the drum in there, and you make sure that your thumb isn't touching the head. You know, some people kind of play with a bent thumb like this. You know, I tend to play generally with a straight thumb going along kind of this direction away. Now the fingers come round. You can see the fingers are just slightly touching the head. They're more touching the actual shell, and then to bend the pitch, they come in and bend the pitch. Actually, the bearing edge underneath is at a steep 45-degree angle, so there's not that much of the bearing edge that's actually touching the shell. So, you know, if you've got your fingers on the bearing edge, and then you can can see very much there how it's finally the jingle. Now, as I mentioned in the other video also, I tend to play with the jingle, and a lot of players in India do, with the jingle underneath the striking hand, and then you get a lot of staccato jingle effect. Just gives it that little bit of top end. Some people in India play with a jingle on top of the drum. It's horses for courses. I prefer it under the hand. So let's now look at the actual strokes on the drum and how we articulate those. First of all is the open stroke, played with the first finger. So we strike the drum, and the part of the finger, if we imagine we're striking here and the finger kind of follows through and pulls away, kind of slow motion in real time, hits and pulls away. Now we only play the open tone with the first finger, although some players in India, it's unusual, but some players in India use other fingers. So the first finger, now we're not going to do any pitch bend. That will come, quite a bit later in the lessons actually. So just this one open tone with the first finger. So you can see kind of like this is the position. The finger is kind of striking, coming through and bouncing off. It doesn't stay on the head at all, and it doesn't bounce off really quickly. Kind of see it there. It doesn't sound right because of the position of the drum, but you see, I'm just trying to demonstrate the motion. So we can see the motion there. If I come sideways a little bit, you can see exactly how it's happening. It's kind of like a whiplash type motion. Now the next stroke will be the close stroke, the staccato sound, and what we have with all Indian drums, to be honest, and unless they're played with sticks, is we have the split hand technique, where the hand's divided into two striking units, a three-fingered striking unit and a one-fingered striking unit. So 3 and 1. And this is very common across all of Indian percussion. And that's one of the reasons that they can play so fast, is because, it's a bit like Johnny Rab's freehand technique. It's kind of, you're getting two strokes for one when you're combining them in certain ways. Particularly because a lot of the drums are very staccato, like tabla, mridangam, ghatam. They're very staccato notes, so you can really build up a density of notes. If it was a much lower tuned drum, then it would be harder to build up that density of notes, 30-second notes, really fast. And similarly on the Kanjira, all the closed strokes are very staccato. It's only the open notes that are very very resonant. So we have the split hand technique. And this involves, the three-fingered unit and the one-fingered unit. And what we're going to do to begin with is we're just going to play 3, 1, 3, 1, striking in the center of the drum. And I'll show you the playing position and how that looks when I'm holding the drum naturally. We're striking very much in the center. So if you imagine there's a line in the center, this finger will be on that line, and then this finger will be on that line. So it looks like the hands are doing that when they're playing fast, but they're not. They're just striking in the same place, roughly. 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. And you don't want too much tension in this hand. This hand's got to be fairly relaxed. You see a little bit of movement with the drum, that's natural. 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. It's important that you remain very relaxed for a lot of these strokes, because as soon as you have tension either in the holding hand or the striking hand, you know, you're going to have a real problem getting up to speed and developing anything, you know, beyond that. So let's look at recap of the basic simple pattern that we had before, which was starting with the one finger with an open tone, and then closed, closed, closed. So 1, 3, 1, 3, open, closed, closed, closed. So it's very important to stay relaxed, keep the strokes very clear and very, very sharp. So now we're going to look at reversing that pattern. So we're going to start with the open tone and do close, close, closed, 1, 3, 1, 3, and then we're going to do 3, 1, 3, 1. And the last of those will be open. One, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 1. This pattern becomes really important later on when we start to build different grooves, and in the next lesson we're going to be working out different combinations of this reversing pattern and adding some accents and making it more into you know, a groove type thing. Now finally for this time I just want to look at a couple of 3-beat units. Now we're going to have two doubles with the first finger, followed by a single 3-fingered stroke, staccato close stroke, to wrap up the group of 3, and it will sound like this: 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3. Try and get the strokes even, so the open tones are going to be even, and especially as well when you've got when you have 2 strokes together, which isn't in this pattern, but later on you want to kind of get them even, equal volume. 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3. Just to cap that off, we're going to have a counterpart 3-beat figure which leads with the 3-beat unit. Now these will all be closed strokes, and it will be 3, 1, 3, closed, closed, closed. 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3. Now this seems very simple, but this pattern and also the reverse that we did with the 4s is incredibly important in terms of what we're going to build in the future lessons. So do spend plenty of time with it. Let's just look at it again. 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3. So now let's put those two units together in the same way we did with the 4-beat unit. 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3. So do take your time with all these individual components because they're all vitally important for the stuff that we're going to build later on in the next few lessons. So do stop back and check that out. And don't forget, if you are so inclined, then please and see you next time.